everybody. Today is Show Us Your Wall. This is our last class. It's a little bittersweet. And I really had a wonderful time teaching. And I hope you've learned a thing or two about art. You know, I hope people have shared so much wisdom with me. And hopefully I could share just a little bit with you. In our lessons, so who did we cover in this series? And so far, we have covered Annie Katsura Rollins, and this was the Shadow Puppets, and Faith Ringgold. We've read her book, Tar Beach. We have looked at Kara Walker's silhouettes. This was one of the silhouettes we did. And Romir Bearden, his collage work. Where is Romir? Oh, there he is. Oh, no, that's Bob Blackburn. Oh, right here, right here. Eric Carle, he does collage work as well. And so that's the Very Hungry Caterpillar. And Jackson Pollock, right over there. He did the drip paintings. Helen Frankenthaler, she did the poured paintings. Here she is. And Robert Blackburn, he's here with the press, so we did a little printmaking. Wayne Thiebaud, we did some of his stuff right there. Roy Lichtenstein with the onomatopoeia, right here. And Gerhard Richter, he's the guy who dragged the paint. And then Gertrude Stein. So that's who we are going to talk about today. And Gertrude Stein was born in Pittsburgh in 1874, and she was raised in California. In 1903, she moved to Paris, where she held her Paris salon on Saturday evenings. But we will have our Sunday afternoon Show Us Your Wall, like in the New York Times. We're not going to do Saturday night because many of you have bedtimes, and the parents also sometimes just fall asleep reading a book to the person they're putting to bed. So let's do daytime stuff. Now, during her parties, she invited writers such as Ernest Hemingway and Ezra Pound and F. Scott Fitzgerald, and she also had artists who would come to her salons like Picasso and Braque and Rousseau and Frank Stella. And what I've read, crediting Wikipedia, was she said that they kind of began because there were these Matisse paintings that were on the wall, and people came to see the Matisse paintings in her home, just like we are doing now, right in our home. And so when she invited Matisse, the Matisse would bring friends, then they would bring friends, and before you know it, this became a happening every Saturday. Now, a girl can only wish, myself, to be invited to one of these salon nights with poets and artists, and I'm sure they played music. What a wonderful experience that would have had been. But it's not 1874, so it's not possible. So that is our Gertrude Stein. Now, Picasso, I don't know if you can absolutely see, but Picasso made this painting of her, and then that's Picasso's self-portrait. But this is in the picture of Gertrude Stein. Hold up our books here. So this is Gertrude Stein, and this is how she had her work here. That's her sitting, and that's the painting that Picasso made for her. That's pretty wild. And look at all of the other artwork. So today, we are going to talk about how you hang your work, how do you choose work, how does it go up on the wall, what are your options. So let's get right into that part. So I'm going to kind of take all of this stuff down here. All of it. Whoop. And put it here. And this. This was all that show you the artist. The artist I chose, I think I tried to get a wide range of experiences for you, like a little sculpture, making the shadow puppet theater, showing you ways to apply paint differently. Like we don't always have to paint with just a brush. We can drip it and pour it and drag it, and the printmaking is never ending. Like I hope you have all of these other options, that if you're bored on a rainy day, that you just kind of break out your art supplies and you start working. And what happens to me in my studio is, once I start making something, then it kind of goes into something else, and then it kind of goes into something else, and before you know it, I'm busy for 20 minutes, a half hour, an hour, sometimes way longer than that, So maybe someday, if you're bored or feeling inspired or something, just break out all of these supplies that we have used and then make something. Makers are gonna make, so go make something, So this would be our last time for message us your artwork, but definitely save your artwork for the exhibition. So it's the last time for this sign. See ya later. And you could definitely message us right on Facebook any artwork that you would like to share, maybe some of your exhibition that you're having in your home. We would love to see it. Okay, that's done there. All right, so curating your work. How do you pick work? We made a lot of work, but how does one curate an exhibition? How do you choose the work? So I'm going to kind of put some work up, and then we can kind of talk about it. So this can come down as well. This is part of the signage for the exhibit. That the signage might be on a window of a gallery when you're coming in. It might be in a museum on an empty wall when you arrive at a museum. So there's a signage, and we're going to get to that part as well. So, but the curating the work, how do you actually see it? Because when you're making work, you see it differently later than when you're making it. It's sort of, I don't know if any of you have ever heard, being in the trees, in the forest, So when you're in the forest, you can't really see the trees because you're surrounded by them. So sometimes when you make artwork, you need to give yourself just some space. So this would be the space. We are not in the process. We are not in the studio. We are not making work right now, but we are getting ready to exhibit the work. I'll just put that there. Put this one here. And I learned this many years ago, and it's called the Snyder Method. It was by Amy Snyder at Pratt Institute. She ran the art and design education department for many years with Susan Martin and Nancy Ross, and these women were brilliant and are brilliant about how to teach art. And so one of the ways that I learned to look at work is we're going to start just asking ourselves some questions, and we're going to start moving the work. So we can start with saying, how many of these pieces have red in the work? So anything with red, which is a lot. These are not. These are. These are not. So we start with anything with the color red. So these all have the color red. And you take a minute and you look at all of these. How many, next question, how many of these works have words in it? So that would kind of look at this one and this one. We would separate these two. How many of these pieces have fruit? So let's move, and find fruit. This one and this one. So when you're kind of looking at the work, you want to get familiar with trying to see it from different angles. So you're not just kind of staying in the place as, I like this work, I really like this work. You can totally really like this work, but just take a moment to see all that you've done, maybe from a different point of view. Maybe the next question is, how many of these pieces of artwork, these creations, how many have people in it? Well, I can add this to the pile because this has a person, this one. Okay. This one has a person. It could be, you could draw the person. It could be a photograph of the person. This has people. What about this? That's a face, correct? Sure, it's a profile. It's a silhouette from Kara Walker, from being inspired from her work. Okay. So now that we've kind of looked at the work with a more critical eye, with a more, like you're searching and seeking for things, and you're kind of letting your opinion fall to the side a little bit for the moment. I just want to give everybody options, and you take what you like and you leave what you don't want to use. So let me just give you an array of options about exhibiting work, and then you choose whatever you want, okay? So now we're starting to curate the work, and we're starting to look at it from kind of different angles. We're getting more familiar because 1 week of making work into the next week, I don't know about you, but sometimes I just kind of left the work in my art bin, and I didn't really look at it. So even for myself, this is kind of the first time I'm seeing an array of work, all of this stuff together. So now, let's talk about how do you frame the work? How do you frame the pieces? What I did was I wanted colorful things. You can go with all white mats or frames. You can go with gold. You can go with black. For me, for this exhibition, I wanted it to be super colorful. So I just have a package of construction paper, and I started to kind of look at all the different artwork here. Okay, and so I just got the artwork, and you can glue it, you can tape it. I am a real big fan of blue tape when it comes to artwork and walls, because I can use it behind the artwork, and when you take the tape off, it doesn't usually tear. So it's kind of a really safe tape to work with. So I started going with colors, and as you can see, they're all different colors. Now, what do you do if the artwork is larger than the size of the construction paper that you might have? If you look in the back here, I just taped 2 pieces together. Well, it's all kind of glued, but you could sort of see if I separate them. That's just 2 pieces to make it larger to cover that. What if you don't have construction paper? This one, I really like the idea of framing the work. So I framed the piece, the artwork, and I basically collaged it onto a larger piece of newspaper. There's newspaper inside this artwork, and I just really liked kind of seeing that grayish tone, so I framed it that way. I have another piece here, right here, where I broke out the good old wrapping paper. so I just kind of traced the size that I needed, and then I put the artwork, I glued it right onto the wrapping paper. You can also use, if you have in a house for a while, you can use a paper bag, a brown paper bag, and you can frame all the work with that. There are options out there. Now, you could get a little fancy pants, and you can order. My friend Susie gave me this, Susie Q, permanent way to show work. So it has like little places for screws, and you could put this up on a wall, and then the artwork, let's just take this one. The artwork kind of goes into, oh, it takes a little minute though, and especially if you're on camera, it makes you a little more nervous. Well, now I'm making a mess. This is not a good ad for this work here, because I'm just making a mess here. Maybe I could do it here. Okay. So you can, don't destroy the frame like I just did. I would have been more careful had I more time, but there's about 15 minutes left and we have much to go through still. So you could, and it just came off. Maybe that one, oh, that one's just tight, that's why. Okay, so you could hang the work on one of these things, or you can make one. So with just regular string and paper clips I had in the house, this was in the shed and these were in a drawer, and I hung paper clips. I put a nail here and a nail here, but what if you're not allowed to put nails in the wall? I mean, most people don't want nails in their wall. Artists do, but most other people probably don't. You can tie string onto two chairs, and if you kind of pull the chairs away, it will make it taut. It will make the string nice and kind of even. The only thing working with the paper clips is if you do want to work with the paper clips, what I did was I just added a little piece of clear tape on top like this of the paper clip. Otherwise, they're going to kind of shift and move. Let's see. So here is another option. If you're not allowed to use the wall, you can put work up. The same one. You can put work up here. If they're heavy, then you can add maybe 2 paper clips. You know, like you could figure it out. It's sorry. Yeah, this one might need 2. Okay, it doesn't. So let me take this one down behind. This one's distracting. There. So now you have those 2 up there. So that's another way to hang work. I do want to talk to you also about framing the work. Where did that little piece go? Right here. To go back, you can add a double mat. So basically what I did for this piece was I put the print on orange first, and then I added the yellow. So that's called a double mat. It just makes it look more colorful. Just add a little more color. When in doubt, add a little more color. Maybe by chance you do have a frame. If you have a frame in your house, so what I did was the canvas was actually white, and I didn't like the white paper on the white canvas, so I had some acrylic or just black paint, and I painted the background, and then I put this on top. So this is another option, but I don't, you don't have to go out and buy anything. The construction paper, the paper bag works perfectly. But this is another option if you have some frames in your house. Maybe the picture and the frame has been there a while, and you can kind of rotate, so you can change things that way. Another thing to talk about is in the art world, there is something called a diptych and a triptych. So a diptych is for 2, and a triptych is for 3. So when you hang something like this, this is a diptych. It's usually 2 panels. So you can have 2 works that are fairly similar, and you can hang them together like this. It used to be like for altar pieces, and there would be a hinge, and you would kind of open them. So this is a diptych. But what if you wanted to do a triptych? So I kind of liked this idea. That's the triptych. So a triptych is 3. And these are real art terms. I'm not making this up. the museum, you know, and what I'm teaching you is exactly straight from the museum. So let me take this down now. Okay, take these down. Okay. That's a diptych and a triptych, and I wanted to talk to you about decal, a decal edge. When you get paper from, like in a package, very, very much, an example of no decal would be your printing paper. It's a machine that cuts paper, and it's very sharp, and the edges are very, very sharp. But a lot of times in watercolor paper or with print, when you do printmaking like the Bob Blackburn, there's always kind of a decal. And the decal is that softer edge. It's always kind of like when you rip paper. So if I have a piece here and I ripped it, it has that kind of like fuzzy, softer edge, and that is called the decal edge, the decal of the paper, and D-E-C-K-L-E, the decal of the paper. And I always like that with printmaking. Now let's get to printmaking. Printmaking has a kind of special way to sign your work because, well, we all should be signing our work. This would be the time, the setup time, when you have your kind of plastic table out. I used to work at the Transit Museum, and I used to help hang up a lot of those work with my soda pop and Rob and Dickie. I mean, they're just wonderful. Hey, Polly. It was just a wonderful time, and I learned so much about hanging work and exhibitions. So hanging work, you need to sign it, so you can just print your name. If you have a fancier signature, if you want to put your first initial, first letter, and then write out your whole name. In my work, I just signed DiGi, D-I-G-I, and that's it. I call it a day. So back to printmaking, back at the ranch. In printmaking, this was a monotype that we've made, and you usually sign on the bottom right, and sometimes you could just put your name, sometimes you could put the year. In this case, I have my name and the year, so that's signage for the piece, for the artwork. But now we have signage, so I'm just going to kind of, we have about 7 minutes left. I don't know how this happens. I don't know where the time goes. So I'm just going to kind of, sometimes you can hang work. This would be an awesome time to work with this thing. I always loved this when I was a kid. It's not that we have to be so particular, but to learn how to use a level is pretty wild, and some of them have magnets on it. So if I'm going to hang this piece, instead of trying to eyeball it up or down, and then I always, you know, one corner goes higher, and then, oh, it's crooked, and then you do the other corner, oh, it's crooked the other way, and then you do it again, and it's crooked again. This thing is fabulous. You just put it on top. If the bubble is in the middle of those two lines, then it's level. So I'm going to put a few of these up so we can get on with our exhibition. And sometimes when you hang work for an exhibit, like a retrospective, you can have a retrospective of this series, and that would be that you're showing the work from the 4 sessions. Sometimes when you hang work, oh, I get the level out. Oops, no good. Ah, much better. Sometimes when you hang your work, you show part of the process. So this was kind of like the sketch, my first time trying, and then I ended with this one. If this bothers you, then please, by all means, take the back too, so it's nice and snug to the wall. You can have work up there. We can hang the framed piece up here. I gotta be careful with this. Maybe over here. Yeah, okay. Most people in their houses, this is just a ledge, and we put a quarter round on, and I dry my paintings here. Usually I'm standing where the couch is. And this is why we have this, but most people don't have that in their house, so we make do. We can keep hanging the work. If I have his portrait there, then maybe put another portrait here. And sometimes you can hang them all in a straight line, but if you don't want to, I used to work with Leah McCloskey, and I was an art handler for the Art Students League for their exhibitions. And sometimes we would hang work with kind of like in clusters, you know, and they would kind of go up and down. Signage, let's get to that. Signage is usually a small piece of paper in a show, sometimes to the right of the work here, sometimes on the bottom of the work, but it usually stays with a system. So if I choose to have signage for this piece, oh, actually, it's for the American flags. Hold on, folks. So these were our Gerhard Richter American flag, and I changed it into a triptych. So if I were to have signage, and I titled this, you can also title your work. Each piece can have its own individual title. So this, I would put on the bottom right. Now I've made that decision to put the work on the bottom right, and I would stay consistent with that decision. So if I were to put another signage here, I would also put it on the bottom right. And the signage is there just to give you a little more information about the piece. So if it's your retrospective, you don't have to put your name because all of the work in the exhibition belong to you. But usually on the signage is the title of the work, the medium. So this is paint on paper, and the medium for this would be watercolor on paper. This would be tempera paint on paper. So you kind of just write the materials that you use. Oh, I'm biased. Let me get my little superstar up there. Hold on. Okay, he's in the show now too. And I have one more to get up, and then we will set up for the show. Okay, one more. Where did they go? Do I have them? I did have them. Oh, they're up there. This is my stepson Chris and my stepdaughter Melissa and Robert. So we're missing the birdie is my stepson Brian. Okay, so we talked about signage. Okay, if you will just give me a moment, the time has come. Sorry, folks. Clear the table, and this is how white people hang shows. So you hang the show, you have a table out that has all of your hanging supplies on it, and then you clean it up. Cleaning up doesn't mean on the floor though, but I'm running out of time. Okay. And this I need, and put it in a special place. Okay, so for an exhibition, there's usually a little party, a little reception, so let's get started. If you don't have a tablecloth, sheets work excellent. I've definitely used some sheets in my college days for any kind of show that we've had. So we get a beautiful tablecloth. Sometimes when you have a reception, the food is not usually directly in the middle. It might be off to the side. But because what we have going on here is it's just one camera, so we're going to leave it there. What do you have at openings? You might have some flowers at your opening. Usually my mom always brings me flowers for my exhibition, so why not have some flowers? What about some food? So usually it's kind of cut up, but I'm not not going to eat all this fruit, and I don't want to waste it. And some cheese sticks, why not? Little cheese. How about some crackers? How's about a little juice? Okay, I got some apple juice. And I have borrowed from my son his Paw Patrol swirly straw. That's a good year for that apple juice. And our last bit. This is for you. You can print them. I printed mine. If you don't have access to a printer with the stay-at-home with what's going on, then you can wait to print it. You can always make your own. But I have to say, to end our May series, we have a printable certificate that should be in the links below. And I would just like to say, congratulations. Yippee! Bravo! Yay! We had 5 weeks together. If you missed some of the weeks, you can always go back to the Art Students League Facebook, and you can find them there. The certificate says, the Art Students Little League Certificate of Completion. Amy DiGi's workshop, and the artist, there's a space where you can kind of put your name, and it says, for completing 5 weeks of class. But if you didn't get all 5, you can still get the certificate. It's okay. And maybe this goes with your exhibition. Like, I know you can't really invite people over to your house right now because of things that are happening, but you can do a video like this, and you can show your family and friends work that you did, and you can have a presentation. And this, I was so proud of you. Thank you for the time that I've spent with you. So I'm going to add this here, and then usually during openings, receptions, there's music. So I don't want to get into copyright laws, and I don't want to go there, so I just checked, and classical music, it doesn't have copyright from Beethoven. Beethoven and Mozart, they don't have copyrights because it's 70 years after the artist has died that you would have a copyright, and then they're gone from 1827 and 1791. So, Alexa, please play some Mozart.
Shuffling songs by Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart.
Wolfgang.
On music.
Thank you. I don't know if anybody else talks to their Alexa, but I do. And I want to say that this experience was amazing. I am honored to have this opportunity to share some things I've learned along the way. When I left teaching full-time, I didn't know if it was the right thing to do. And now having this platform through the Art Students League and to be included in the New York Times, I was given the chance to teach many more young artists than compared to if I stayed in a classroom. There's like over 1,000 views on these videos, or 2,000 views, and I'm able to teach more children because of this opportunity. And I really want to thank you for that. And I do yoga with Adrienne, and what she says before I sign off, I will take a page from her book. She says, "The awesome in me recognizes the awesome in you." Peace and love, and be well, everybody. Thank you so much. Have a great Sunday. Have a great day. Bye-bye.